All right, guys, we are back here again. So our next guest is a person I met again in Harrisburg, as with our last guest, Latoya. He was someone who spoke at an event that we were both at. I was more kind of getting my feet under me and trying to figure out exactly what this movement is of people with disabilities fighting. I've been doing advocating in my own way, but wasn't really sure what all this was. It was new. Misty, my CEO, took me down there and didn't really give me a whole lot of information. As I said in the last podcast, I was down there. I saw all these people in suits and then all these people with disabilities. And I didn't really know what it was going to be until the one woman interrupted them and said, hey, we want to speak our piece, speak our minds, and tell you how we feel and how we're being treated. And our next guest was he was one of the first speakers, if not the first speaker. I don't remember who spoke first, but he was one of them. And he said something really real in his speech, especially towards the end, where they're fighting for their service hours for their care attendants, and he said that are you essentially saying that my disability is getting better, because if anything it's getting worse. And it's just like the way he spoke to them with such passion and how much he really there was all, I mean, you can tell there, I think there was a little bit of sadness, there was a little bit of anger, there was a little bit of everything. And he's actually genuinely a really nice guy. But he just, it's fight or flight. And he was at a point where he just didn't know what else to do. And this is genuinely what came out of him, because he was so tired of fighting this stupid system that we all have to fight, unfortunately. So when I met him and I shook his hand and I was like, I have to have you on. He's just a really nice guy. And I've bumped into him multiple times now in Harrisburg, and I've been able to hang out with him a little bit, and just a good guy. So anyway, buddy, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Tim is my newest brother to the family. I call my family the Adapt family, which is spelled ADAPT. It's an organization of people with disabilities. My name is Guy Anthony Brooks, but you can call me Tony Brooks. I live in Philadelphia, but not born and raised. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and I came to the States to live a normal life like anybody else without a disability, till I got my disability and I was transitioned from places that I wasn't expected to be in America. For one, I, as an African, did not expect this kind of treatment. So I was transitioned into a nursing institution. And out of that nursing institution, I met somebody who introduced me to an independent living center like the one that Tim is working in. Mm-hmm. The one in Philadelphia is called Liberty Resources. They serve the disability community in Philadelphia, Chester, Delaware, and Montgomery counties. We help in understanding how to live free with no barriers with a disability in the community.
Right.
I was transitioned out of one of the nursing institutions 12 years ago. I'm now an activist, an advocate, and like Tim said, a profound speaker about the rights of people with disabilities.
Yeah.
I am a person with a disability myself. I acquired my disability from a motor vehicle accident which happened to
your phone cut out. Say that one more time. You said you acquired your disability by, and then it cut out.
A motor vehicle accident. 12 years ago. 12 years ago. I lived in Montgomery County of Pennsylvania, of Philadelphia, and that's where I acquired it. But I was transitioned to a nursing institution in the Philadelphia County. So I had a lot of barriers that I had to cross over in the nursing institution itself. But when I found out about the Independent Living Center for Independent Living for people with disabilities, I was so happy to find them that I even mentioned it to them that I don't want to be living in the nursing home no more. So they helped me transition into an accessible, affordable home in the community, subsidized by my social security and the state, and still going through the services of living in the community. Um, Let me see. Where can I continue? So, as Tim said, we met once when we were in Harrisburg talking about personal care attendants and their wages and needing more uh, wage hours for work because the medical care organizations in Pennsylvania, which is the MCOs, are the ones who are regulating the care hours which we are given. So uh, they use the system to determine what I need. And that is a system which I feel is archaic and outdated in recognizing a person with a disability. So when I met him the first time, that was what we were really up on because the MCOs regulate home and community based services through the MCOs, and I need help. That is where my personal care attendant, my PCA, comes into play when I'm home, when I'm in the community, whatever I'm doing, even when I'm at work. So they determine your disability by this system where it says, okay, for you, you need 4 hours a day of help. And I am querying that question and that system of how can you determine the care hours I need whilst my disability is different than any other disability out here. Everybody's disability is different. Like he spoke about Toya. I know Toya. We've been brothers and sisters for years, so I know her. I call my my family, the people who I'm always around with, people with disabilities, my brothers and my sisters, because without them, you wouldn't be in this world even. So I tend to call them my brothers and sisters, even though we are not related by blood, but they are my brothers and my sisters because they understand and are willing to go the distance for what is our civil rights.
Sure. Well, I think what I was telling Toya last week, when we got to know each other more, of course, but she wasn't able to attend the last event in Harrisburg where we did the Capitol Crawl. And I said that, how powerful it was. Like, yeah, maybe there should have been a lot more people, whatnot, but I thought it was so powerful because there's so many of us that are with different disabilities, different races, different genders, so on and so on. And we're out looking out for each other. We're doing our thing. We get to the top of the steps, and the people who are struggling, the ones who are a little more able to help them, we all go and we help them. And it's not about, color or any of that shit. And we genuinely do look out for each other. We have love for each other. We all are in the same boat. We don't look at somebody, oh, look, that person has no legs, or that one has a spinal cord injury, or in my case, an eye injury. We don't look at anybody for being any different. We just help each other. And that's what's so powerful and beautiful about the whole thing.
Yeah. And the most interesting thing about this all is that we like Tim is saying, we all came from different backgrounds.
Right.
I did not know Tim from birth, but we have a bond, and with that bond, we build ourselves, we build a character, because in the natural world, the people, the able-bodied people, those who have everything, they seem to be perfect to the world. They are not perfect, because each and every one still has a disability.
Yep.
You have to recognize your disability before you be proud of yourself. I was told by a person with a disability that in this world we have two passports. The first passport is the able passport, where you can do and be wherever you want to be by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the second passport is when you are disabled, and everyone who you thought would be on your side, it's not on your side no more. Where is all that friend, family you were expecting? Because they did not recognize your disabilities, so they are shying away from you. They are neglect.
Oh.
Sure.
All right, guys. So we had little technical difficulties. Go ahead, buddy.
No worries, brother. So, as I was saying, in this world we have two passports. The able passport, where you can do everything by yourself, and the disabled passport, where you would now have to ask, where is my access? How can I communicate with you? How may I find my way around without even having to ask you? That is where the ADA came into play, which was signed in 1990.
Right.
It gave us the right to have access to any public, any government, any place of gathering for public use, that we, people with disabilities, be it physical or invisible, still have access to that place also. But since the ADA was signed, it's been I don't know what word to use.
Well, it wasn't perfect. I mean, like you said, it kind of got us to the game, but it didn't give us the talent to continue to keep it going. Like we're there. It obviously, like I said, it was great for the '90s, because that we were way behind in every way possible. I mean, we were put in all kind of facilities, and we were looked at as mongoloids and freaks and cripples and all these words that they threw at us. So we were so behind. So what it did, it gave us a real chance to fight for ourselves. But a lot of people also squandered it, and a lot of people made other rules, and they altered it and changed it. And so we have to continue to keep fighting the uphill battle, even though we're making headway.
We are making headway through our independent living centers, through our activism and advocacy, connecting with representatives, speaking to them about what the ADA is, because a lot of people don't know the history of the ADA in the first place.
Right. Or even what it
and
stands for.
What it stands for, yes. What it stands for, they don't know. So they tend to just ignore it. And this is where the activism in me comes out. Because if you have a law in America that says that I, a person with a disability, should be able to live in the community and be as live a normal, free, independent life like anybody else with no barriers. So why do we still have barriers? That is where I have my pet peeve at to talk about the ADA, where we need our access to anything, be it health, education, a public place, housing, homes. We are not supposed to be living in nursing institutions because we have a disability. We are supposed to live in the community like anybody else.
Well, another thing is like one of the things I think a lot of people is like a misconception. I think everyone just thinks only people that go to nursing homes are people who are elderly, which isn't true at all. Which is one of the main reasons you're fighting for what you're fighting for. Because I mean, I've seen videos all the time, and I'm like, hey, I'm 30 years old, I don't have a family, and I'm paralyzed, and I'm now in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And that's where they're
because
stuck.
of an accident, because of a situation that got you into a nursing home, your civil rights are taken from you. You cannot live a simple, independent life like anybody else just because you have a disability. That's not right.
Yeah, and you would think it's already hard enough. Oh man, I'm in a wheelchair. My whole life just flipped upside down, and that's the bad part. It's like no, it gets worse. It continues.
It gets worse. It continues because first of all, you have a physical disability. Anybody on the street you see day to day, they will look at you with a cringe in the face. Don't look at me with that kind of cringe or pity or say you want to pray for me. Come sit beside me and say, hey brother, how are you doing today? Hey sister, how are you doing today? Instead of coming up to me and say, I pity you. I feel for you. I hate those words. I pity you.
Yeah.
Don't pity me. We have a slogan out here, piss on pity.
Yeah, for sure.
If you with a disability would understand, but somebody on the outside would not understand because they are not empathetic to the cause. That is where we need to let people know that one day your disability is going to show, and what are you going to do about it? All you perfect people out there, be it age, be it illness, be it an accident, what are you going to do about that? That is where you're going to be needing the ADA.
Sure. Well, I think and I'm sure you've gotten it as well, but what? Sometimes some people will say, "Man, I think you're a hero. You're inspiring," and you're like, you know what? You're first kind of put off by it because you're like, "Are you putting me in the pity category? Like, are you pitying me?" And then if there are there are people who genuinely give you good reasons, like, "No, man, you really helped me to understand what you're going through a little bit. It also helps me to appreciate what I have." And some days there are people that just struggle, let's say mental health, and they're just like, man, I see someone like you, Tony, or me with my eyes. It's like how you get around, how you carry yourself like that. I didn't even know that was possible. And not for a person with a disability, but just period. And how you
just being serious. Yes.
Yeah. So there are people,
how you carry yourself daily.
Right.
Don't let your disability discourage you from still living a happy life.
Yeah. So there are people
That's
who look
one
at
thing.
us and they empathize and they do care, and we are like a guiding light, not only for people with disabilities, but anybody who's just trying to get through life and they're feeling sorry for
Like,
themselves, and they go, wow,
yeah,
you are
like,
heroic or special in your own way.
yeah. And like you said, words, we have, it's been a stigma on us for years that people with disabilities have been, have been called words which still are degrading us every day.
Yeah.
Those words are not welcoming words. So, under education, which I am wearing one of those hats, it's disability education equality. Uh, we people with disabilities created a curriculum for K to 12 to understand that disability needs to be understood in school too. Just like sign language needs to be taught in schools,
Yeah.
because it's not everybody who can speak. It's not everybody who can hear. It's not everybody who can see. It's just like it's not everybody who can pick up a pen.
Yeah.
So how can I communicate? Let's break that barrier of communication and make it an accessible communication between an individual without a disability and an individual with a disability,
Sure.
or an individual who believes they have no disability
Right. Well,
with an individual who has disabilities.
right. Well, one. I mean, and this is where we play a huge part, because, like, when you see, let's say, Black Lives Matter or the Me Too movement or the LGBTQ movement, like, there is a plethora of, thousands to possibly even millions of people fighting for those causes, which they should, right? Obviously, they get
Yeah.
all messed up and they always end up being about greed and all that, but they always start off in a good direction and they're always about helping those particular people. The problem with us
Yeah.
people with disabilities is not enough of us do what those people do. Like, and we're in all those groups as well. There's plenty of people with disabilities that are gay or trans or black or Hispanic or women. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I had a conversation with somebody on the podcast about a year or so ago, and I was asking her, and she was fighting for LGBTQ and Me Too movements. And I said, so are you putting that same effort into the disability movement? She goes, no. And I said, why not? And she said, I never even thought about it. And I said that movement is as important as those movements. I said maybe even more so now, because we need those movements have plenty of people fighting for them. And I'm not saying you should necessarily get away from it, but we need you. We have very few of us. And like when I bumped into you, like, you're one of the people that really stood out to me, because when the way you carry yourself is how we all, as a person with disability, should inspire to, because you're very happy-go-lucky. Yes, you show pain. You have been through a lot. You've traveled from a far land, but you smile, you laugh, you have a good time. Like, I think that was one of the greatest things about that Harrisburg trip, is when we pulled into that Italian deli, that restaurant, with all these people with so many disabilities. After all the crying and the anger and just the overall sadness that was in that room, we all sat down, ate our food, and we laughed and hugged until we love each other, and we just enjoyed it. And it doesn't mean that the pain and the sadness is entirely gone away, because what we were fighting for is still on the table. But
it's still on the table day in, day out.
Right, but we still know how to get away from our issues, from our darkness, and we were still able to love each other. And it's like, can you imagine if we could turn that into hundreds of thousands of us? And because like, we were down there, Harrisburg, just this past couple weeks ago, we were fighting for care attendance before, and then this one, it's more about the disability vote to count. And I was looking, there's almost 5 million people with disabilities in Pennsylvania. There's 13 million people in total, so that's almost half the vote. But you never hear anybody say, you know what, The disability vote, how are we going to accommodate them? No, they'll say the black vote, or the Hispanic vote, the gay vote, the woman vote, which they should, but you never hear
But
the disability vote.
yes, because they all have forgotten that disability is a human right also. The,
Right.
the, we were taught, they were taught, we were taught from our communities that being disabled is a burden, which is not.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
understand? They let us look like our disability was a complete hustle. It was too much for one person to bear. It was too much for one person to uh, pay. That is why we were sent into nursing institutions because the felt that that was the right place for us, which is not. The right place for us is in the community, in
Right.
an affordable, accessible home created in the community.
Right. Well, that's why it's so important for us, because when you look at all these past movements and you look at, for even the beginning, look at how women couldn't vote, and they were basically, all they were in this country was, have babies, take care of the children, clean, cook, and service her man. Well, that's not how women are looked at now. Look at black people. They were enslaved, and they were only
Yep.
things, they were just workers. And they
Well,
didn't even really have any identity or value. Well, look at black people now. So you
yeah,
imagine if
we
what
have.
we, yeah, like, you imagine if we
We,
put our
we,
time and effort into, and we actually stood together, and we
yes,
actually made a difference, how people would perceive people with disabilities right this minute.
and one thing also people forget that the ADA was back then just like any other civil rights movement which started back in the 60s and 70s. I got to learn
Careful, you're
that
making a lot of noise.
uh, I'm making a lot of noise.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. I don't want to be too much feedback, because then
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
yeah, go ahead, you're good.
Yeah. So the civil rights movement, the ADA, started in the same years because uh, you remember when I had to learn this over here about history about America with the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of them, the civil rights movements which are still going on now. But the ADA movement started just like any other movement. We did do advocacies and actions. What we call actions is activism. We did that with the civil rights movement. We I do do you remember the story about Judy Heumann
Yeah, of course.
when they were in is it California when they took over one of their office buildings because their rights were not being respected.
Yeah,
So they did a flick in,
yeah,
a takeover of the building, and the adoption was there for days, and the Black Panthers
they provide
came.
food and all that. Yeah,
Yes, so it is not that we cannot be activists together. We are activists together. It's just that we have to come to a common table where all of us can sit together and we pile, put each and every, because we in the disability movement, we are fighting for health care. We are fighting for housing. We are fighting for education. We are fighting for our civil rights.
Yeah.
We, we, people with disabilities, we are looked at like people who have nothing basic in life but the wheelchair. Yes, physically, because you are in a wheelchair, they say that's the only place you are going to be in. No, that is a lie.
Yeah.
You have you have the civil right to live wherever in the nation, not just in Pennsylvania, the whole nation. So I don't understand why uh, you are being told that what happens, what the ADA, like, it seems to me like the ADA in California is different than the ADA in DC. It's different than the ADA law in Missouri. Why? Isn't it the same laws which are governing the whole nation?
Yeah.
That's a question I'd like to find out. The laws in Texas, are they not the same as the laws in New York? Is it because you have a governor, you have state representatives, you have city representatives, so your laws are different? But you're all one nation. You, so I don't understand why you would let me tell me that I have no right to live in the community with a personal care attendant with care hours to care for me. Imagine what will happen to my children when I have children. We are entering to marriage equality. We cannot have children, we cannot have a married life because we are disabled. That's not right.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've said so many times on here, like, and it's kind of become one of my slogans is just, the hardest part about having a disability is everything else. And people are so like narrow-minded. They only see what's in front of them a lot of times. And they can't envision somebody in a wheelchair, somebody blind, living a life that's fruitful and achieving their goals and being happy and having a wife and kids and, like I said, working and going to school and getting their masters. Like they can't, because again, our ceilings are so low to the average, like to the world a lot of times. The ceiling is so low. So then when we even do anything that's out of the realm of possibility in their heads, it's like, oh my God, you shattered the ceiling. But then that becomes our limitation. Like that becomes our final, that's the final thing that we can achieve. And then we do it again and again. And they continue to say, well, okay, that's great. You got a job. Oh, that's great. You got a new job. Oh, that's great. You found a girlfriend. Okay, that's about it from here. And then, wait, you got married too? Oh my God. And you had kids. And like, it's just like, man. And again, that's why part of it is our fault too, because we've allowed this to happen for so long. And now that we have a place and platforms for us to speak, we have to be less shameful of who we are. We have to be upfront and honest and just own who we are and love who we are. It may not be easy, but the world's not going to get their foot off our neck unless we wake up.
Yes. We have to take our durable medical equipment with us and show the world that we feel we are in this world. Everybody is born with a disability. Age is the number one disability to me.
Yeah.
Age is the number one disability to me. Yeah. That's the bottom line. As I've been living for the past years and the struggles I have gone through and what I have seen and experienced, I'll say age is the number one disability.
Yeah. It's changing mindsets, because I'm sure being around a center for independent living, one of the things that I've been there in the 6 months I've been at one of the things we hate to hear, especially me, is when you say, hey, do you want to work or are you working? And they'll go, no, I don't work. I have a disability. It's like, that's not an excuse. Get off of that. Like, what kind of mindset is that? But that is a mindset for a lot of us. So when we say that
Yeah.
the majority of us are unemployed, it's not just people won't hire us. That is a huge problem. But there is a
Yes.
mindset in our community that's like, no, we don't work because we're disabled. It's like that's not enough.
That's not enough
That's not an
because
excuse.
what are you losing for the new generations which are coming up? What are you leaving for them? That is my pet peeve.
Yeah.
What are you leaving for the other generations? Because most of us want to get married, want to have children, and see. I have godsons and goddaughters, but I have no kids of my own. But I want to see my godson and goddaughter progress in this world. They have disabilities. They have disabilities, and I want to see them progress. How would I see them progress if I don't leave anything for them?
Yeah. I'm sure for you, like I have my pity party, where I feel bad for myself at times and all that. But what really breaks my heart is when I see younger versions of ourselves struggle, and they don't have any guidance or any leadership, because a lot of these some of these kids don't have parents who don't expect much from them. So then it's like they go out to the world and they don't have much to believe in. They don't have much to fight in. They don't have any superheroes to look up to. And those are the ones I struggle with, and I feel so sad for, because I want them to find I want them to find, their Tony. There's someone that can actually just say, hey, look, man, I'm not going to tell you this life is easy for you, but it gets better. But you have to fight for this.
You have to fight for what you believe is your civil right to live in the community in an independent, living by yourself. Number one,
Yeah.
it's where you experience what life really is. When I was young, I got out of college. My dad asked me, what do I want to do in life? And I said, well, I see I am very skillful with my hands because I love fixing stuff. So, I'm an engineer. But because of my education, I turned out to be a mechanic. And I fix cars. Anything on a car, I can fix it with no headaches. Because I know the tools and the skill to fix.
Sure.
So that is what I have used to help people. Because it's not just me that's going through this.
Yeah. Can you tell the people like what your mobility is? Like, how much mobility do you have on a daily basis? Because they know you're in a wheelchair, but they don't know what you can and can't do.
What I can do and what I can't do are two completely different things.
Right.
Because I have the ability to do everything and anything that I want to do.
Sure.
I am not resisted. I am not told, no, you cannot do that. Somebody else says that to me. I just look in the other direction and do what I am doing to show them that this is what I, Tony, can do. Be it that I'm still sitting in a wheelchair, I'm physically disabled, but I am able to do what I need to do.
For sure. Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Is that understood?
Yeah. I just meant on the mobility level, not what you.
My mobility level. When we speak about mobility level, I need assistance to transfer from my bed. I need help in picking up stuff. I need help but I use my arms to propel myself in my wheelchair myself. I don't need nobody to push my wheelchair, but there are people who need somebody to propel their wheelchair. That is why I say I am able enough to do things myself
Sure.
till I need help.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I've seen you just flying down the street, and it's with total joy and laughter, and you're just having a good time, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's 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 what it's all about.
right,
Enjoying your day,
yeah,
enjoying your day to day, with nobody saying, "Why are you happy?" I am happy because I want to be happy.
yeah, yeah. And I think we all strive for that. Like we all want happiness. We all want a peace of mind where we can just lay down and just say and it's like maybe ours is harder to obtain, and maybe it doesn't seem on the front end that this is that easy, but we manage, we find ways. I mean, if we were unhappy all the time, we were sad and angry, I mean, that's not a life worth living. And of course, we know that's a huge part, as mental health is obviously a huge contributor to what ends up happening to us down the road, because we go through it, we really go through it. But the ones who push through and really strive for their goals, and they don't just sit around and fantasize in their whole lives. Like you can make all this work, but
Yeah,
as I
it
said,
it it, it, it depends on what you would love to do, because I know a lot of disabled folks who are musicians,
sure,
a lot of disabled folks who have professions, a lot of disabled folks who are book writers, and half of them too have been activists.
yeah,
You understand?
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a huge fight for us, is figuring out what our actual limitations are from what people tell us ours is, because we are told all the time what we can't do, and it's up
Yeah,
to you to believe whether that is true or not. But we do have them, as everyone else does. It's just, what are the real limitations? And sometimes we when we dig deep, we figure out, oh no, we can do this. It's just we do it in a different way.
we do it in a different way.
And that's the special part, is when you see somebody do something you couldn't fathom doing it with whatever we're lacking, eyes, legs, whatever. You go, oh, okay, but how can you do it? I can't fathom you going up a ladder, or fathom you driving a car, or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to do it the way you're envisioning it, but this is how I do it. Oh, holy shit, okay, that's pretty fascinating. And then, because to me, I'm always in awe of people who show me their different ways of doing things, regardless if it's my disability or someone else's. I am so fascinated by just all our accessible technology and everything that we use on a daily basis just to get us. I interviewed a woman who had no arms, and she showed me how she gets into clothes and how she showers and how she does all these. I'm just like, this is so fascinating. Like, there's nothing
Yeah,
about this I want to judge.
just like Toya, you wouldn't believe that she has degrees, not just one,
Yeah,
but more than one.
yeah,
And she has a disability, and she has a kid also.
yep. With a disability, yeah.
She has a kid who is in school, right? Who is in school? He's, I think, 12 years now, or 13. And Toya is one of those who really inspired me to advocate for more. To get, yes, I knew about disability when I was back home, but you see, we back home, we 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 lived with our disabilities, and we accepted our disabilities. We what word can I use for that? We accepted that, yes, disability is part of life. You know, that is how I look at disability. It's part of life, and it's part of us. So the only way understanding disability is living disability. And I saw cousins, nephews with disabilities born with cleft lips. You remember, about kids born with a cleft lip, right? Polio,
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. It's still happening till today, but we are doing our best to accept it and let it be recognized that it's something that everybody is gonna go through one day in their life.
Yeah. I've said
So
this.
they're going through it in their life today, but they don't know how to accept. I had to accept my disability.
Yeah. I've said this. I was just going to say, I've said this before, but like, even if you give us, our bodies back, my eyes, your legs and whatnot, if you give us all that back and we're able-bodied again, we're at some point going to become disabled in another way, because when we get older, we're going to need hearing aids or glasses or a cane or something. This is all temporary.
Yeah. It's all temporary. Yes. And this is where people, I call them the able-bodied people, don't understand that all this scientific discoveries about stem cells and all that, you're gonna break down. You're gonna age out. Everybody has an age limit.
Yeah.
It is that we do not know when our limit is due.
Yeah.
But we strive to live for longer years. And I want to live so long that I want to see my great-grandchildren.
Sure. Yeah, and if it doesn't happen to you, most likely you die at a young age, which is even worse.
Which is even worse. Because we are still young now, but we are still going to age. Each day, each second, every second of the day we are aging.
Yeah.
Time is our number one disability. And people don't get it.
Sure.
Believe me, I stopped looking at a clock or a watch or asking for time from people. It was, I said, why do I need to ask for the time? Or why do I need to look up for how many hours I have remaining? Well, in a day, it's 24 hours. People in the able world think that the world just lives for 12 hours. No, it's 24. The sun is always out. The moon is always out. It's just that we have clouds and rain and weather change.
Sure. Yeah. You're making a really good point. I mean, as I said, it's a hokey, corny thing to say, but I really do take every day, one day at a time, because, some days this life is fun, and some days it's like, oh man, I don't even want to get out of bed, but I get up anyway.
I get up anyway. I prefer to be outside my doors, enjoying the warm weather, than being stuck indoors. Like the story of the ADA when it started back in the 70s with Wade Blank and the Gang of 19. They lived in a nursing institution in Denver, Colorado. And Wade Blank was, I think, a resident pastor of the institution. I do not know his whole life story, but from what Wade did for the first 19 was that it seems he bought himself one of these homes in houses in Denver, or he acquired it in a way that it was acceptable, and he got 19 folks to go with him to the house. But as they were in the house, they noticed that they had steps. The curb cuts had no curb. The curbs had no cut.
Yeah.
You and I understand what we mean by curb cuts, but the other person, the able-bodied person, will call it a crosswalk.
Right.
The zebra crossing where the little pebbles are on the side. It was us people in wheelchairs, the first gang of 19.
Yeah, they threw themselves in front of the buses to make them more accessible.
Accessible. They went to the curb, took hammers and mallets and broke it so that they could have an egress.
Yeah.
Then they had to go publicly for transportation, for public places, for restaurants. Have you guys noticed that before the 90s in McDonald's, they had chairs which were not moving and tables which were not moving until people with disabilities went to speak to them and say, "Hey, your place is not accessible for me to eat. So why should I patronize your place?" That's the same with me over here too. If I find a restaurant, a public place which is not accessible, I advocate over it. Like just recently, ShopRite, Fresh Grocer, all these, most of them had this pillars to prevent people from stealing their car. So they had a gate, but they locked the access gate.
Yeah.
And every time I went there, they would have to wait for them to open the gate. I'll have to wait for them to open the gate to let me back out again. So I put this out to them. Just imagine that you're a person with a disability like me, typically in a manual chair, power chair, a scooter, a rollator, a cane, whatever, and your place is under fire.
Yeah.
I would be the last person to leave if I was in that building, because you know what has been happening in nursing institutions so far. Since before the pandemic, when we have natural disasters like hurricanes, floods, and stuff like that, we are left in nursing institutions to die off, and that is the last place I want anybody to die in.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to jail than die in a nursing home, because I believe if I'm in the jailhouse, they will treat me better than in a nursing institution. During the pandemic, people with disabilities, people in the nursing institutions died in the nursing institutions just because they did not want to put them in rooms, because institutions can have over 500 consumers, residents, and during the pandemic, what could they do about that? They just had to leave them in their places and ignore them. Yeah. Some of us who were in the communities also, just because we did not have personal care attendants, had to die in our homes because we had nobody to come and look at us and come and do a welfare check on us. Come and know because they didn't have a family member. They were stuck in a nursing institution and died off in a nursing institution.
Yeah.
That's not right. The person's life was so quickly. Imagine if that person could have lived for another 5 more years. They'll be hearing our stories. They'll speak on what they are going through in the nursing homes if they could have the chance to speak. And that is one thing also. I don't understand why the state wouldn't allow Centers for Independence to right now. It started in Pennsylvania. Centers for Independence are going into nursing institutions, speaking to them about nursing home transition. I'm one of the advocates speaking to them because I live in a nursing home and I want to. I'm showing them physically by myself sitting in a wheelchair, coming to speak to them about living in the communities and living in a nursing institution. And so far, we are with resistance from.
You're cutting out. Yeah, I can hear you now.
What I said was there right now Centers for Independent Living in Pennsylvania have the opportunity to go into nursing institutions and speak to the residents about living in the community. And I do not know if the nation is going to do that, but I hope the nation goes with that.
Well, it's all about keeping the fight going. Gotta keep them.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta stay in their ear. Eventually, you yell loud enough for a long period of time, and somebody has to listen. So it's kind of the goal. You just outlast them, and I mean that was like what you were talking about earlier with all those people with disabilities fighting for the ADA. They went into that building, and there are people in there that needed to be turned over. They needed to be in comfort. They can't lay on the floor or steps, but they all took care of each other. And they knew that they were sacrificing their health and their bodies, but they said, we are here for a much bigger cause, and if we have to sacrifice ourselves, we will. But we are going to make sure they hear us loud and clear. And eventually they did, because they outlasted them, and they got everything at that point in time, what they needed and what they asked for. And they put us in a position for where we are now. Now we have to take the baton from them and, carry it on.
Yes, yes.
So,
and like you said, we have to carry it on, because if we don't carry on, who is going to know about ADAPT? Who is going to know about the disability community? All they know about the disability community is when you're aged out, when you have aged, and you need care, somebody to care for you, but there's nobody to care for you, so they leave you alone, and that is where I come in as an activist.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, if we don't carry it on, then Ed Roberts, Judith Heumann, everyone else everyone that came before us will their legacies will be for nothing if we don't do something. And
something about it.
We will let them all down, unfortunately. So
that is what I don't want to do, because without them, I wouldn't be here today.
Right. Well, buddy, I appreciate you for coming on. This was fun.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak about transitioning, advocacy, being an activist for your own needs, not the needs of somebody who is not understanding what we are going through.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it again sometime, and like I said, obviously you keep in touch and
let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
You got my number. We can we even if it is just like we come to hang out together in Williamsport, we can do one right there with you, right?
Hell yeah, we can do them wherever, on the fly.
Yes, yes, on the fly.
All right, my friend.
All right, buddy.
Keep your head up, and we'll do this soon.
Enjoy the weekend, my friend.
You too, buddy.
Take care.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it was very distorted. A lot of sounds. I'll try to get as much out as I can. But yeah, and I hope you understood him. I mean, he has a very hard accent, but I understood him most of the time, like 90%. So maybe just because I've been around him. But anyway, like I said, he is the real deal, man. He's somebody that we should all strive to want to be. Just someone who's, had a life, been through a lot, and continues to go through a lot, but he smiles and keeps it pushing and doesn't give up. And he fights for so many other people because he's a very unselfish person. And I have a lot of gratitude of just knowing him and knowing many people like him. And him and I have been trying to get this done for a good while now, and I'm so proud we did it. Like I said, I'm sorry for some of the sound effects and stuff. It's just part of it's his phone, and just but we got it done. So appreciate you guys very much. I'm gonna try to take this rest of this Sunday and just try to enjoy my day off. If y'all want a good show to watch Baby Reindeer. It's a very twisted show. Obviously, when I tell you this show just came out, but very twisted show. But if you want to talk about mental health, watch that show. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Appreciate you. I'll be here same time, same channel. I was gonna get bullied. He is knocked out sleeping right next to me. He wants nothing to do with participating in this show. There is a rumor going around that he has started his own show, and I don't like it one bit. So we're going to have a talk. But anyway, we will see you guys next week, or maybe just me, because clearly he doesn't believe in this anymore. But anyway, guys, see ya. Bye to the boy. And that was not the right one. See, this has been a whole clusterfuck. Let's try this again, guys. I will see you next week. Appreciate you very much. Bye, guys.